Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. This week's video is going to be an exciting video, well, for me at least. And that is, I'm finally going to be doing a modification to the GTR that I've wanted to do to the car since before I even bought it. And that is, I'm going to be installing a Nismo style wing on my Black Edition GTR, and I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. But before I get to it, two things. One, if you do like automotive, particularly GTR content, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And two, if you'd like to support the channel, I do have the JD Archer shop. If you go to jdarcher.bigcartel.com, you can see a limited section of hats and t-shirts I've designed that are for sale. But with that out of the way, let's go and get to work, and I'll show you how to install a Nismo wing on your GTR. Before I get started on installing this on the car, I do want to let you know this is actually not a Nissan-made Nismo wing. To buy the Nissan brand, you're looking at about 14 grand, which is a lot more than I can justify spending on just a wing. This one is actually made by a company called CT Carbon. Now, if you're like me and you do want to put this wing on your car and you don't have 14 grand to drop, you're going to have to get what's called a Nismo style wing. And these are just reproductions. Now, I did about a month's worth of research before I bought this one, and there were some things I've learned. Basically, there's two companies you want to go with if you're going to get this wing. There's EPI Entune, which makes a wing, and then this, of course, is CT Carbon. And the biggest difference I could see between the two of them was EPI's wing is about 3 grand, and this one is only about $1 grand. That is a huge price difference. The only major difference that you're gonna run into is CT Carbon typically doesn't have a lot of these in stock, and so you have to wait for them to get in stock, so you might have to wait a little bit, where the Entunes you can pretty much order and you'd have tomorrow. Now, if you decide you don't want to go with either one of those companies, this is what you're going to want to do. There are a lot of companies that make these wings. There's one called Darwin Pro, and I think there's KT and a whole bunch of them out there. Before you buy, you want to ask these 3 questions. One, you want to ask, did they do the 3D scans themselves? Entune and CT Carbon actually did the 3D scans of the wing themselves in-house to have the molds made. A lot of people will either just order up a cheap replica from China and resell it, or they'll buy secondhand molds. So you want to make sure whatever company you buy from did the 3D scan themselves. The next thing you want to ask is it full carbon fiber? Because a lot of other wings, especially on eBay, will just be fiberglass with a carbon fiber overlay. And therefore you're losing some strength and you're also getting a bit heavier of a product. The last thing you want to do is you want to contact people who have ordered from that company before, because some of those cheap knockoff wings are notorious for actually flying off the car, breaking and ripping and all that other stuff at higher speeds. Now with CT Carbon, I found about 4 people that have this wing that have all taken the wing over 180 miles an hour, which means I know it's safe to have this wing on the car. So that's what I did during my research to get this particular wing. One more thing before we get to work, and this is something I like to do in all of my videos where I show you how to work on a car, and that is I want to run you through all the tools and products you're going to need to get this job done. That way you never find yourself in a situation where you've got the car apart and all of a sudden you're missing something and you're looking for an emergency ride down to Pep Boys or Home Depot to get a tool or part or something to get the job done. So the first thing you're going to need is just your standard toolkit. I prefer Craftsman. For those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, you know that. It's because I got that no questions asked broken tool replacement thing. So I've been a loyal Craftsman user for years. The next thing you're gonna need is a drill. Yes, this is the scary part. I am gonna have to drill my trunk, but you know what? If I want that cool wing, I'm gonna have to do it. The other thing you're gonna need is a Dremel tool. The reason why is there is some sub-bracing underneath here, and once I put the wing on to get to some of those bolts, I'm gonna have to cut that bracing to get to it. Now that might be the stuff you can think of off the top of your head. There's gonna be some more stuff you're gonna need that you might not think of. First thing being 3M body tape. Now it's really cool. If you saw my unboxing video I did earlier this week, I discovered that CT actually included quite a bit of 3M body tape. Now, if you haven't seen that video, I will put a link to it in the description down below and put a banner above my head if you want to check it out and see just how well they packaged that wing to ship it to me. Another thing that you're going to need is a tape measure and some painter's tape. We're going to be using this to figure out where center is on the trunk. That way the wing is sitting nice and centered as close as we can get it. Another thing that you're going to need is, of course, electrical tools. As you saw, there is a third brake light. It's just 2 wires. If you haven't done electrical before, this is gonna be very, very simple, so this shouldn't scare you at all. I'll walk you through it. It shouldn't be an issue. Another thing you're going to need is this. These are some just black vinyl dots. They're about 1 inch. Now, when you take off the stock wing, there's going to be some holes left behind, and I'm probably not going to get those filled anytime soon. I'm waiting for myself to finish with the body before I just get all that taken care of and the car painted. So for the meantime, I have these. However, if you have a car that's not black, maybe something that's like silver or blue, it might be hard to find these kind of commercially. You might have to find a company that does some vinyl wrapping and see if they'd be willing to cut you about 12 1-inch vinyl dots to cover those holes. Another option you do have is you can go down to Home Depot, AutoZone, Putt Boys, and you can just get they have like these little push clips that you can push into those holes. Anything that you need to just kind of keep the weather out of the trunk while you're waiting to find the time or money to get those holes professionally filled. Now, the next thing you're gonna need is some paper and scissors. The reason why you need these is I'm gonna use these to make templates of the feet of the wing. That way I can just put it on the trunk to figure out where to safely drill my holes. And of course, the last thing you're gonna need is a towel. Now, this might not make a lot of sense at first, but the reason why is when you take the stock wing off, you kind of have to flip it over so you can get some of the electrics out of there, and it's just a way to protect the paint on your trunk. So have a couple of towels standing by. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and start working. So the first thing we need to start off with doing is getting this cover out of the way. Fortunately, this should be very easy. There's a number of clips just around here, and then you have the pull tab here, which looks like a 10mm underneath it. So you just want to use a flathead, or if you have a trim removal tool, you just kind of work it right in here into the flat part, give a little twist, and it comes out that easy. So these little pieces right here, just pull right out. There we go. So this trunk release pull is just clipped in to the trunk by these two. It's a little scary, but you just kind of have to pull. I use the screwdriver to just kind of support it. And then this whole thing should clear. There we go. So this is what I was talking about here with the Dremel tool. We're probably gonna have to cut here to get to the bolts. Now that we've got the cover off of the trunk, the next thing we're gonna do is remove these stickers right here. They're just some vinyl stickers that cover up some Allen heads. Now you just wanna be very careful pulling them off because you're probably gonna want to reuse them if you're gonna sell the wing, or if you're just watching this video to figure out how to take the wing off so you can put it back on. You're not going to want to lose these. Yeah. All right, now that those are out of the way, it looks like we got some Phillips heads. We just need to take these off. And then we can kind of remove the top half of this wing. Should be fine because it still has the centerpiece that's holding it in place. Yeah, because that's held on by tape, you know, the 3M tape basically. All right, now that we've got this plate out of the way, it looks like there's some 10mm underneath there, and then maybe this wing should come apart in half. The washer gets in the way. We're not gonna be able to clear that until we separate the wing. So something I just discovered while trying to take this thing apart is this bottom nut right here, because of the washer, will not clear this lower plastic base. So I'm gonna have to take off the other side, separate off this wing, and then kind of do the last bit of it as it has more room to clear. So as you do know, we do have the last bolt here holding it in place. I'm gonna see if we can't get this separated a little bit so we can get that out. Now, this middle piece here is held on by a clip, but also some 3M body tape. So if I can't get this off, I can kind of see it. I might just start cutting, which I'm just gonna start cutting. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't damage the trunk at all. All right, so we got the wing off. As you can see, that was a lot harder than we thought, only because there's so much tape holding the center thing. In hindsight, you might want to get some fishing line, and that way you can just kind of fish the fishing line through, and it'll cut the tape. It might make it a lot easier to remove. The next thing we need to do to get this thing fully clear is you can see there's foam here holding this wire that goes to the third brake light. And then there's this black piece right here. All you have to do is just kind of peel off this black foam here, and you'll come across the connector, which feels like it's right here. And then we should be able to separate the wing. And there we go. The top part of the wing is clear. Now all we got to do is remove the bolts that are holding the stands in place, and then it'll come off. Now it's going to have tape just like the middle one, so it's also going to be a bit of a pain in the ass. All right, so to get this off, we got 3 bolts, or we got one here, and one in here, and then we can start working on taking the stand off. Now the fun part's going to be not losing this one. This one's also got clips holding it as well, but they said the clips should stay with the car. All right, so now we got the stands off for the stock wing. We're pretty much good to go. Got to make sure that the wire clears. Now, when you're pulling on this, it's a little nerve-wracking because it takes a lot of force because there's clips, as you can see here, that hold the wing and they slip into these green parts. Now, it's actually designed as you pull off, these kind of flex and these clips come clear. So it takes quite a bit of force. Just be brave and commit. All right, so we're gonna need this wire because this is what powers the third brake light that we're gonna be installing, but you still wanna get this clear of the deck lid. So there's a little rubber grommet. Yep, there it goes. Yeah. So those come out there kind of like this 2-piece squeeze. You just got to figure out a way to depress each side to get them clear, which is a little hard to do with, you know, the lack of openings, particularly on this side. This side I think should be a little bit easier. I can see one right there and I can see the other one over there. Oh. There we go. Already, there we go, we're clear. Another thing you should have in your toolkit when doing this is a mic. So one thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about tools is something to get rid of these stickers. You need to use Goof Off, which I forgot to bring, but we do have some Simple Green. See if that works maybe. All right, so we got the stock wing off. We attempted to get some of this adhesive off. Was having an issue, we're losing the light, so we're just gonna move forward. I got most of the adhesive off for the centerpiece here, which is the most important one because we're gonna be covering it, and I'll just have plenty of time in the future to get this off and get the trunk all clean. So we're gonna go ahead and move ahead with actually installing the wing. And so the first thing we gotta do is find the dead center of the trunk, and that's what you need the tape measure and the painter's tape for. So let's see here, this trunk is, so it's just shy of 42. So it's like, let's just do it at 21, which looks like it's about right when you look at, so I'm just gonna go ahead and mark the dead center. So, yeah, it's like pretty much 42, so 21. So that's our middle mark right there. So now what we need to do is take the wing and figure out where the dead center is on the wing. All right, so That's about 59. Like 28 and 28.75. Okay. So let's go ahead and put that away. Just kind of loosely line that up with that. Well, now we just measure from here to here and from here to here.
Put it right here.
Okay.
To the edge is just under 11 inches.
Okay.
Over here, on the edge, 10 inches.
Okay, so I need to go this
Half
way.
an inch to the other side. All right, right there.
Okay.
10 1/4, and that puts us at about 10 1/2 over here. So
So
a little bit more towards me.
there we go.
Between 10 1/2, 10 1/4. See?
Okay, so get 2 pieces of tape and mark where this is at. Should be at my feet. There we go. So now we at least know where these go. You can also measure between here and here, and here and here. Okay, so we're looking good.
Yeah,
We're looking good. All right, so here we go. Go ahead and just go and put that back on. We know we can roughly line those up with that and that. Let's see here, from there to there is 10 1/2, there to there. It's about 10 1/2, so that looks good. All right, so now that we've basically got it all drilled and ready to go on, time to put on the 3M body tape. So we're just gonna go ahead and line the outside of each foot, and that way it should hold it in place. Let's start up here. Looks like it's as it should be. All right, time to commit. Thank you, CT Carbon, for including this. It's so much better than the one I ordered. Now for the fun part.
You need to put it in correctly.
On the.
Keep it from touching.
Okay, I'm lined up. How are you?
I am lined up.
All right, time to commit. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. Just take a look at it. Oh, that car just looks so much better. All right, so this is actually a different day. The first day we were working on this wing, ran out of time and couldn't finish. Another issue I ran into is that, you know how excited I was that CT Carbon had given me all that mounting equipment? It turns out that actually they gave me nothing that was useful. They gave me a whole bunch of wood screws and they didn't even give me the nuts I needed to lock down the studs here on the wing. So I had made a quick run down to Home Depot and I picked up some nuts, some washers, and some locking washers that are supposedly the correct size. So if you do order this from CT Carbon and it doesn't come with any nuts itself, you're going down to Home Depot, you're going to want the M6 by 1.0 nuts, pick up some washers and some lock washers, you know, that way it doesn't vibrate clear, and I should be able to go ahead and finish the install right now. So yes, that is the correct size. So go down to Home Depot, you're going to need 8 nuts and washers and lock washers that are M6 by 1.0. All right, so this is where the Dremel tool is gonna pay off. So to get to this last bolt here, the subframe body right here is kind of in the way. So I'm just gonna kind of cut a little square in there. That way I can actually get the nut into place and get this wing locked down on this side. Now I will go ahead and cut a full hole on this side. I'll have to get to the nuts on that side. Once again, that's what the Dremel tool is for. Right, so pretty much got all the bolts on that I could reach. Now I just gotta get this back one. So I can see that, looks like this stud's on this side, so I'm probably gonna go from here to here to here to here. Now fully bolted in. Cool deal. All right, now that we got everything bolted down, we're almost there. The last thing we gotta do is install this center piece with the third brake light. So running the wire is gonna kind of be a trick, I feel. All right. Oh, cool, we got lucky. All right. Loosen it up, there's a little bit of play. So what I'm doing now is there's, you know, some scuffs left over from the stock wing. We've got the rest of the tape wedge to do off, because once we put the centerpiece off, I'm not gonna be able to clean in there too well, so I might as well do that first. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is loosen up the bolts and see if that gives me the freedom. Fortunately, I think there's enough wire. So let's go ahead and just set up 3M tape on this, and that way when we get it, we get it. All right, so what we've done is we've put some of the 3M tape on the centerpiece because there's nothing that actually holds it to the car. There's no bolts or anything, so the only thing holding it's going to be this 3M tape. Fortunately, there's not a lot happening to it, and if worse comes to worse, still got the wire that'll hold it in place, so I don't have to worry about losing it too much. No, what it is actually is that the deck lid is curved. Yeah, that's the issue. So that is why it wanted to rock on us. But that's the best we can do for right now, so let's go ahead and wire it up. So we got a black and a white wire. I'm assuming white would be hot. Black would be ground. All right. Yep, they're on. They work. The question is then, do I maybe just want to tape them down like that? So what we're doing is something not 100% advisable, and I'll probably change this in the future. Typically I like to use T connectors on my electric work, so I can then, just clip into the wires and then attach this, and then I don't actually have to remove the plug. Unfortunately, for some reason here in California, no place carries T connectors that are in the size of these wires. So what we're doing is, because the opening is so small in the plug and these wires are so fine, I pretty much just jammed them in there, twisted them, and now I'm just gonna tape around it to lock them in place, because there's not a lot of stress that happens back here, and that should keep it running. At some point in time, I'll probably just order up the T connectors from Amazon. I'll leave a link for them in the description down below, so when you do this job, you can just go straight to the right way to do it. I want you to try the brake lights again, make sure that's all copacetic. Yep. All right, so now to just tighten down those bolts I loosened again and put the cover back on, and we're pretty much done. I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. I almost forgot. All right, so you might think at this point we're actually done, but there's one more thing we need to do. Now, because we pulled off the old wing, you got all these holes in the trunk left over from their mounting points. Now, I'm not gonna be taking the car to the body shop anytime soon, because there's still some stuff I wanna do to the exterior before I commit to painting. So to temporarily fix the issue with these holes so I'm not getting water in there, that's what these vinyl dots are for that I brought up at the beginning of the video. Like I said, fortunately my car is black, which means it's really easy to get black vinyl dots. All you have to do is just peel them, put them over the hole. They blend in pretty darn well, as you can see, and they'll keep water and dust out of your trunk. And there we go. The wing is now fully installed and ready to go. But there is one last thing we need to do before we end this video, and that's test it. Although testing the wing was of course done for fun, it wasn't the only reason why I did this. The reason why this was such an important step is there's reports of some of the cheaper wings bending and flexing at speed, and I wanted to make sure that the CT Carbon wing was as strong as they say it is. As you can see, this wing is not bending or flexing at all, which means it's a very solid wing. And there it is, the full installation of the CT Carbon Nismo style wing on the R35 GTR. I gotta say, I absolutely love this wing, no regrets whatsoever. It kind of gives it that more aggressive import tuner look that I really go for. And I really feel like this is how the car should have looked from the factory, which is maybe why they did it for the Nismo edition. Now the stock wing is fine, it looks okay, but to me it kind of reminded me of DK's wing on his 350Z in Tokyo Drift, so this kind of gives it a little bit more separation for me from the 350Z, even though they're both made by Nissan. However, before you go out and buy this wing, there were a few negatives, and I want to make sure you know about them before you make the purchase, just so you're fully informed. First was, initially I was super stoked when I opened up the box that it seemed like they gave me a whole bunch of hardware to install this wing. However, as I discovered, that hardware is absolutely pointless. You're never going to use it. In fact, most of it's just wood screws, so you're just toss it. The other issue is they didn't give me the nuts that actually fit on the studs to tighten this thing down onto the body. I don't know why they don't include those. So if you do pick up this wing, before you start drilling into your car, go down to a local hardware store. You're gonna need some nuts that are M6 by 1.0, some washers, and some lock washers. And then you're pretty much ready to do the install. You're gonna need 8 of them. Along that same vein, I did notice something that was a little odd too, and that was the studs. Now, there's both a good and a bad here. The good is that the studs aren't just carbon fibered into the wing. They actually have metal sleeves they use that are actually threaded, so the studs are in there with metal. The problem is they're very, very shallow, maybe only about 3 threads, and I didn't show you, but it did happen. One of them actually popped out. So what I'm gonna do off camera probably in the future is I'm gonna take all the studs out, I'm gonna coat them with some 2-part epoxy, thread them back in there, let it dry, and that should get me some extra strength to holding this wing down. Another issue I had, and this was actually the biggest one, and something you should definitely know, was this centerpiece here that I was very excited about with the third brake light. It doesn't fit that well, and the reason why is the bottom of their piece is perfectly flat, but the trunk is actually curved. So I can push this down and it'll go in, but if I push on one side, it kind of teeter-totters. So that's something you should be aware of. Now that might be the difference between this and the EPI N-Tune wing. If you're watching this video and you actually have the EPI N-Tune wing installed on your car, please post in the comment section down below. Let me know how this center section fits. If it fits perfectly and it's kind of concaved on the bottom to basically take into account for the size of the trunk, let me know, because that might be the difference between this $1,000 wing and a $3,000 wing. And as somebody who might be thinking about buying this wing, you might be like, okay, the extra $2,000 is worth it to have a perfect fitting centerpiece. Or you might be like, I'll save the $2,000, I won't even use a centerpiece because you don't need it. Or you're fine with it being a little off. But either way, I feel those are the things you should know about this wing before you commit to buying. Now, as you do notice, I still have some of the adhesive from the stock wing here, as having a pain getting it off. Goof Off wasn't doing it, Simple Green wasn't doing it. We started to use our fingernails and it kind of worked, but not really. Someone told me that there's a product by 3M. I'm gonna go ahead and order that off of Amazon because I drove around today trying to find somebody that has it and nobody has it in stock. So I'll try that out, and if it works well, I'll post in the comment section to let you know and tell you where you can get that 3M product. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go hit that thumbs up button to let me know. It does help the channel out a lot. As I did say at the beginning, if you'd like to see more automotive, particularly GTR content in the future, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Also, every product and tool used in this video will be listed in the description down below. So if you see something you need for your kit or you want to do this job yourself, just go ahead and check the description, see if you have everything. If not, I will have links so you can click on the link and it'll take you where you need to go to buy that particular product. If you have any questions or you feel there's anything I've missed in this video, go ahead and post in the comment section down below. I will respond to you. I thank you all for watching, and until next time, forget everything else, focus on the finish line.